Hello, welcome to another episode of Angela Shows You. Today we are going to work on making a very basic tote bag. This is a very easy project. This is great for somebody who is just getting into sewing. This is very beginner friendly. I think that, hopefully this tutorial will walk through each step, and hopefully this will just give you a really good idea of something very basic that if you are working maybe with somebody who is new to sewing, this should hopefully build their confidence to tackle other things that are a little bit more advanced. So I cut my tote bags to 17 by 17. So I have already gone ahead and I have cut my material. This tote bag is fully lined, so I've got 4 pieces of fabric that we're going to be working with. I've got my exterior piece here, and what I've already done is I cut them, and then when we sew these together, they are going to go right sides together. So I've got pretty little irises. So what you're going to do is you're going to take your 2 pieces of material and you're going to place them right sides together, and these are pinned. I've got them, I have 6 pins. I have 2 on each side and then 2 on the bottom. And of course we will leave the top open. And then I also have cut my interior pieces, and for this bag I just chose a real pretty dark purple. This is solid, so this one's not going to matter. This one doesn't have a right sides together because it's just a solid piece of material. The other thing that you'll want to keep in mind is if you're using a material that's directional, and by that I mean this one is flowers, and the flowers, you've got your little bouquet in your stem. So what you're just going to want to make sure that you do as you are getting your material pinned together, cut and pinned, is you want to make sure that as you're cutting it and pinning it and getting ready to sew it, that you sew so that your direction faces the right direction, meaning you wouldn't want to sew it, like you wouldn't want to sew this way and so this or leave this end open, because then when your bag was done, your flowers would be upside down. So you just want to make sure as you're preparing, cutting and pinning, that you pin the bottom so that the bottom is at the bottom. And then I've also gone ahead and I've prepared my straps, my handles. So I cut these at also 17 inches. And I will link to the video that I did previously on how to make handles, but it's pretty easy. So what you will do is you would take your material, and the wonderful thing about making something like this for yourself is, I make mine 17 by 17, but maybe you want a bag that's a little bit bigger. You can, of course, cut it larger. If you want a bag that's a little bit smaller, you can cut it smaller. If you want your bag to be more of a shoulder bag, maybe you want your straps to be 20 inches instead of, I usually do 17 or 18 inches for my handles, because a lot of times on a basic bag like this, I use these more when I'm going grocery shopping. I don't really use it as some sort of like a purse type bag that I would want it over my shoulder. But if you're going to use this, maybe you're going on vacation and you're going to use it as you know, a bag, if you're doing any kind of souvenir shopping and you want it to be closer to your body, you want it as a shoulder bag, and so you might want to cut your straps a little bit longer. And I'm only, you know, I'm just trying to give a little bit of ideas of reasons why you might want your straps to be a little bit longer or shorter. So the beautiful thing about doing something like this is you can make the bag as big as small as you want. You can make it, when we get to boxing the corners, that'll give you some depth inside the bag, and you can do, you know, however is going to suit the needs that you want. But when you're making your handles, your straps, you would take your material and you would fold it in half. And when I'm doing this, I like to press it. So I would have my iron heated. You would fold it in half, and then what you would do is give that a press, and then you would open it back up and you would fold one side in towards the center. Do that all the way down, press it. Then you would take the other side, you would fold the other side towards the center, all the way down, and press it. Then when you've got your two sides folded in towards the center like that, you would fold it back in half again. And then you would have what would look like this. And I would give that another press again. And then what that does is that folds in all those raw edges and just makes a nice clean seams on the open edge. And then you would take that to the machine and you would sew all the way down one side. And I just sew all the way down the side. I leave the needle in, I pivot, I go along the bottom edge, and then I sew all the way back up the other side. And then on this bag, we're going to put the straps inside, so the ends don't need to be finished. We'll have other tote bags where the straps will be on the outside, so we would want to finish those. But for this bag, you can leave these edges raw. So then I would just sew here, and then of course backstitch to lock that in, and then that gives you your handle. So I already did that on these. And again, when we get there, I will show you, but we'll just want to make sure that we sew these in so that the flowers are facing the direction that we want them. But these are done, and this has a nice finish so that we don't have any raw edges showing on the long ends, just these, but these will be hidden on the finished project. So you're going to take your bag and you're going to sew all the way down one side, sew the bottom, and then come back up on the other side. We will go ahead, and I already did that on this, but this is the lining piece. And here you can see that I have it pinned. So we'll go ahead and we will sew the lining piece together. Now, when we get down to the corner of the bag, we're going to leave the needle down, and we're going to lift up our presser foot, and we're going to turn the material. And then we'll sew along the bottom of the bag. Then we're going to do the same thing when we get to the next edge. We're going to leave the needle down. We're going to lift up the presser foot and we're going to turn it so that we're going to come back up the other side of the bag. Then when we get to the top of the bag, I'm going to just back stitch a couple stitches. Okay, so there we go. Now we'll take the pins out. All right. So now we have the lining piece of our bag all sewn. Okay, so then the next step that you're going to want to take is we're going to turn the exterior piece of the bag right side out. And we're going to attach our handles to the bag. So what you're going to want for here is you are going to want to have a ruler and your straps. Okay, so now I want the strap. It's going to attach onto the bag like this. And what you're going to want to do when you're attaching the bag is I'm going to come in about 4.5 inches. So I'm just going to take my side seam over here and I'm going to start my ruler at the edge of the bag. And I'm going to lay the ruler down on the bag. And I'm going to find my 4 to 4.5 inches. So I'm going to find the 4.5 mark. And I'm going to take the raw edge of the handle and I'm going to line it up on the raw edge of the bag. And I'm going to let it hang. I'm going to let it go off the edge of the bag just a hair. And then I'm going to pin that in place. Being careful, I only want to go through, of course, one side of the bag. Then you want to just be careful that you don't twist your strap. We're going to fold it over like this, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take our ruler, and I'm going to put the 4.5. I'm going to put the 4.5 inch to this side seam of the bag, and I'm going to butt the strap up to the end of the ruler, and I'm going to pin it in place. Just like that. So then we're going to repeat those steps on the other side of the bag. I'm going to put the ruler on the edge of the bag, place the raw edge of the handle to the top raw edge of the bag at the 4.5-inch mark, and pin that down. Again, only going through one layer of the bag. Find the 4.5-inch from the other side. Being careful not to twist that handle. And we're going to pin that. Okay, so now our handles are ready to be attached to the bag. So we're going to open the bag up, and we're going to just go ahead and I do a little kind of close to the edge. And you'll notice I went back and forth a little bit because I want the handles to be attached to the bag. I want the handles to be nice attached to the bag. So I go back and forth a little bit just to make sure that they're sewn on nice and tightly. All right, so there we go. So we're going to flip the bag over, and we're going to sew the other side on the same way. Okay, so now our straps are on, and we're going to actually turn the bag right side. We're going to turn it back so that the two right sides are facing each other again, and we'll just keep the handles tucked in. Maybe. Okay. So the next step of the bag, we're going to want to do we're going to box the corners. And what boxing the corners of a bag does is it gives the bag, when you're looking into it, it gives that bag a square or rectangular shape in the bottom of the bag. So if you think of your paper bag here, these are boxed corners. So that's what we're going to be doing to this tote bag, is we're going to give the bag, this is my garbage bag, we're going to just give our tote bag the bottom. If we didn't do that, then you don't have to do the boxing. You can just leave it just like this, and it it would kind of just resemble more like a plastic bag that you might get at a store that doesn't really have a bottom. It just takes the shape of whatever you put in it. But this way is nice because if you're using this for grocery shopping, you can put, cereal boxes or whatever in there, and you will be able to you can fit more in. So that's what the purpose of doing that is. So I have this cute little ruler that I got, and this is a 2.5-inch ruler. And I tend, when I do these bags, I either use the 2-inch mark or I use the whole 2.5 inches. So tonight to do this, I'm going to I'll do the 2-inch, that way I can kind of show you using, but you can see that it's marked with a 1 and a 2, and then you've got your other half here. So we're going to put this down on the bag, and we're going to just put it in the corners, and we're going to use a pen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 2-inch line on this raw edge of the bag, and I'm going to use the 2-inch line at the bottom as well. And we're going to cut this out, so I'm going to just use a regular pen. So I'm going to just use those 2-inch lines, and I'm going to just use a regular pen, and I'm going to just draw with the pen the line on here. And then on this side, I'm going to draw to the 2-inch mark, and then I'll just move the ruler over and just draw another line. Now, if I was using the whole 2.5 inches, I could just put the ruler right on the 2 corners and just draw the square. But because I was only using the 2-inch, I put the edge of the ruler to the edge of the bag, lined up the 2-inch line mark at the bottom, drew the line to the 2-inch, then I just moved it over to give myself the straight edge and drew the line down. So then we're going to cut our corners out. And you can discard your little square. And then we're going to do the exact same thing on our lining piece of fabric. Now make sure that your opening is at the top. You don't want to draw and cut out of the 2 of the wrong you don't want to cut out 2 of the wrong pieces. Okay. Same thing over here. Gonna go to the 2-inch mark. And then there we go. And that little ruler, I bought that at Joann's. So if you don't have something like that yet, It's nice to have just that small little square. It was only like probably about $5 at Joann's or at Hobby Lobby or any store that has sewing. I don't think I've seen those at Michael's, but Walmart probably has them also. Okay, so we've got our corners cut out. So then we are going to want to, now we have to sew those. So what you're going to do is you're gonna open up that corner. And what I like to do is I'm going to use these as my guide. So I am going to take one side and I'm going to fold it one way, and I'm going to take the other side and I'm going to fold it the other way. That way I have a nice flat seam here. And then we're going to keep that pinched together. You can pin this if you would like to, or clip it with clips. But we're just going to take that right to the machine now, and we're just going to sew that from one edge to the next. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. I always forget to mention that in my videos. I'm using a 1/4 inch seam allowance. So the same thing, we're going to use our fingers. We're going to open up the bottom of the bag here. You want to make sure that those two seams are lining up. Just like that. And we've got, our seams are nice and lined up. There we go. So now our outer piece is all done. We've got our straps on, we've got our corners all set. So now we've got a nice 4-inch wide bag. So we are now going to go ahead and we are going to do the exact same thing on the interior or lining piece, whatever you prefer to call it. We're going to put our hand in the opening. We're going to open up that corner. I'm just taking my fingers and I'm keeping these two seams here. And on this one, it was nice because the two seams just kind of naturally folded the way I wanted them to. And we are going to stitch that across. All right. Last side, corner side, open that up. Keep those two seams together. Give that a stitch from one end to the next. Okay, we're almost done. These go together so quickly. So now you're going to take this piece, your interior piece, and we're going to turn it so that the right side is out. And I'm going to just use my fingers and I'm going to push the corners of the bottom here out. Okay. And then what we're going to do, I lost the bag. We're going to put the lining piece inside the bag. So if this piece was printed, it would be the two right sides, the two printed sides would go together. So we're going to just go ahead and we're going to put the lining piece inside of the exterior piece of the bag. And I'm going to use the side seams, and I'm going to line up the two side seams on the two sides of the bag. Just like that. And then you can, whatever your preference is, if you like the clips or pins, either way, it doesn't matter. I'm gonna just go ahead and use the clips. And I'm gonna just clip. I want the two raw edges together. And I'm gonna just put a couple clips in the bag. And then I'm going to do one more check, and I'm going to make sure that these two edge seams are lined up. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clip it on the two sides as well. Those are really the ones I just want to make sure that they don't move on me, because I want, of course, the bag to stay lined up correctly. Okay, so we've got the top of the bag is clipped together. So now we are going to stitch the top of the bag. Now, the most important thing here is you want to leave an opening. I use the strap edges as my guide. So I'm going to start on the inside of a strap. I'm going to sew all the way around the top of the bag, and I'm going to stop when I get to the inside of this other strap. In other words, I'm going to leave from here, because one of my straps is here. I'm going to leave here to here open. The reason for that is we need a spot to pull this bag so that we can pull it right side out. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to sew all the way around, and I'm going to end here. So I'll have in between the handles here to work with to turn this right side out. Very important. If you sew all the way around, you'll have to get your seam ripper out and tear some of these out, because otherwise your bag will be inside out when you're finished. And of course, we don't want that. All right, so here we go. All right, we're almost back at our starting point. And here's where we want to end, because here's our stitches where we started. So I'm going to back tack a couple stitches there, locking our stitches in place. All right, we're almost done. These go so quickly. So we're going to take our opening, and we're going to just stick our hand inside of it, and we're going to pull all that fabric out, and we're going to just push it out that opening. And I'm going to just use my fingers, and I'm going to poke out my corners. I want to do that on the lining piece and on the outer piece. Okay, so here we go. And then you're just going to tuck the lining piece inside. This takes a little bit to get it worked in there. And the reason that I like doing it this way is you're going to do a top stitch around the top of the bag anyway. So I feel like doing the turn gap this way instead of leaving a gap in the lining of the bag is you're going to sew a top stitch anyway, so the turn gap is going to be hidden. There aren't going to be any seams or stitches on the lining of the inside of the bag. So I just feel like it's a nice way to conceal that turning gap. So the last step is going to be, we've got our turning gap right here. So you're going to just want to fold each piece in a little bit. You can press this with an iron if you want to. I just find that, finger pressing it is enough. That's where our turning gap was, right there. But by folding that in, you've hidden the raw edges. So I'm going to just give that a little clip. So then the last step is going to just be to do a top stitch all the way around this top of the bag. And then it's done. So I hope that you will make one of these, and I hope that it's helpful. I would love it if you would leave a comment and let me know what you think. We will do another bag with a pocket on the inside and on the outside, and we'll also work on doing a bag that will have a closure at the top of it as well, so that you can close it up. But these are nice, versatile bags. I hope that you'll give this video a thumbs up, and if you haven't yet subscribed to Angela Shows You, I hope that I have earned your trust with this, and we have lots in store for 2024. So I hope that you will subscribe so that you don't miss out on anything that is coming up. But the last step on this bag is going to just be the top stitch. That will give it a nice finished look, and it will close up the turning gap. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.